Welcome you all to the lecture series on corporate law. The lecture series aim to address the legal community, particularly students of law, who are eager to learn the nuances of corporate law with the intention to introduce the subject to the people who have no access to understand, learn, and explore the latest developments, and also learning from the people who have the exposure of this subject for a period of more than 2 decades. I introduced this subject with an intention that the young lawyers and the students may avail the benefit out of my experiences and also learn the subject in a lucid way. And the present video is an introductory video, very brief video. Just I will try to introduce the subject. In further lectures, depending upon the feedback and interactions, we will try to move on the subject over a amount of 40 to 50 lectures on the same subjects, which I would be uploading one by one after recording the lectures. And the present subject, which I have titled, is the corporate law, and some places the subject is also used with the nomenclature of company law in LLB curriculum. The subject of company law is a compulsory paper in the LLB curriculum as mandated by the Bar Council of India. We do have a lot of literature available in the form of the textbooks as well as the various other online lectures. My intention of this lecture is that, or this introduction of the subject, to motivate the young minds, to motivate the young legal minds, sharing of my thoughts on the experiences which I had over a period of time in the legal academia or as academicians. Now let us start discussion that why do we study the company, or what is the basic purpose for introduction of the companies in company law. What are the benefits which we see, or how this company as a legal person, which gives either advantages or the disadvantages as compared to the other legal, the other legal entities. Say for example, majority of you may be aware that we have the partnership firm, society, association of persons, and the family businesses. We have the business in the nature of unorganized sectors, the law which avails, or the law which provides various guidelines how to conduct a particular activity. Now let us talk about specifically the terminology of the company, which gives certain facilities or certain advantages. The first and foremost important is that once you incorporate a company under the Companies Act 2013, it says that it acquires a separate legal personality as different from the members who incorporate the companies. When we see the text of law, we can create a legal personality and the company for the purpose that is a lawful purpose. This is where which we see the text of law under Section 3 of the Companies Act. The Companies Act never speaks that you are commencing a business or any lawful activity only for the sake of profit. Yes, it is understood that every business and majority of activities, the byproduct of the activity comes as the profit. When there are profits, the profits are being divided as a matter of dividends and it is distributed among the shareholders. Now let us see this separate legal personality in the sense the members who created the company becomes a separate after the incorporations. So the purpose and the point is that the people who incorporate, there are two natural persons who incorporate a private company, they become separate as compared to the partnerships. In the case of the partnership, what happens? There is this individual liabilities. Individual liability in the sense, if two people starts partnership and the two people who are there in the partnership, they becomes individually liable. Like otherwise, there are other type of legal personalities which are created in the later part of the law, particularly LLPs. There's another legal entity. And do we have the legal mechanism or a personality created by virtue of law? And this personality is running in the eyes of law and this personality is going to die in the eyes of law. That means a company is created in the eyes of law and the same company is going to get death in the eyes of law. And the people who created the company, they become a separate personality. That is one of the primary the primary concept of the companies. Along with that, the other one is called perpetual succession. That means the members who commences the company, even if they die, even if they are not existing after the incorporation of the company, this company is going to exist in the absence of the members who promoted and who created the company. Because in the language of the business, we call the promoters. The people who are responsible for the creation of the company as the promoters, there's a common language. Though law talks about the various characteristics for the promoters, how the promoters will come into existence and the liability and all. But if we say in a simple language, promoter is the one who is responsible for the creation of the companies. So once you have a promoter who created the companies and these people are separate from the company, because that is what comes as a two distinctive identities. One identity is the individuals. Second identity is the people who created the company itself. Now let us move on to the another important concept. Once we incorporate a company, the fundamental doubt will come that who is the owner of the company and how the company runs and how it becomes different from the natural persons. So the very fundamental difference of the company is that according to the Companies Act, company is the owner of the companies. That means on the date of incorporation of company gets its own identity. Company tries to acquire its own properties. And this is which we can see in the very jurisprudential perspective, that is called the existence of ownership and the legal personality in the eyes of fiction of law, otherwise called as the fictional theory of law. The real companies are the individuals who runs the business, but when you look about the practice of the law and the text of the law which regulates the legal personality, that is corporations, it is individuals who are the whole responsible for certain activities and their function. However, in the eyes of law, it is more shown as the what we can say, the corporations. So the two important concepts, one is the separate legal personality, then it can have its ownership, and having another concept is the perpetual succession. Though these some of the concepts will come as a characteristics of the company, I try to introduce to you that the advantages of having a company doing a particular activity. Now let me go back to the same slide. We have another concept, companies which are created for the charity. And this is the new development of Companies Act 2013. If we refer to the section 8 of the Act, it talks about charity. Not only the charity, there is other concept called as social welfare. So we can have a company even for the purposes of the social welfare. So if I want to remove inequality in a society, I want to establish a social welfare society, I can have a company under section 8. Then company law permits the individuals to establish a company for the purpose of social welfare, and therefore you can start the company and you can raise the capitals. And the fourth point is that incorporation the fees. This is what we are going to read in the next slides. And the next slide, it is basically talks about how many people are necessary to start the companies. So this is very simple. How many natural persons are required? It's called the how many people require minimum to start the companies as incorporations. If you see the text of corporate law, it says that the minimum number of people for the private limited company are 2. This is the minimum, and maximum it goes 200 members. So we have the minimum 2 and maximum 7. When it comes to the public limited company, in the public limited company we require minimum 7 and maximum it is unlimited or it is being prescribed. It is not prescribed in the text how many maximum that they can go as far as the number of members are concerned. It varies from the share capital, otherwise called as the unlimited. And whereas in the case of the one person company you can have the 1. Since it is a private limited company, we can assume the maximum is 200. Now in the same slide, here I made it another point, that is minimum numbers. When you look about the public limited company, like the natural persons and the legal persons. Some of you can have a doubt. What is this natural persons and what is this legal person? Say for example, A, B, C, the individual's natural person. Take for example, A limited, B limited, and the C limited, and the D limited. And total you are having here the 4, here the 3. That means 3 plus 4 is equal to 7. The 7 persons, in the 7 persons, these 4, that's called the corporations, like the companies. This we call it as the legal persons, otherwise called as the artificial person. So you have created artificial person in the eyes of law, and you have the natural persons. Why 3 is necessary? Because the Companies Act provides 3 is necessary because in public limited company, the minimum directors are 3. So therefore they brought a logic that you require 3 natural persons to have the company for incorporation. Now, the underlying principle is that the companies can be incorporated by the corporations. The majority also can be companies. That means a legal person can also create another legal person. And in a brief, the total number of people which you require for the private limited is the 2, for the public limited is the 7, for the purpose of one person company, it is the 1. So this is the minimum number which you require to start the company. Now once you are identify the members, that you have the 2 people, then you require how to start the company. You have other 2 people are there. Now how much money you require to start the company on the day 1? Say for example, today, which is the second, say that 5th October 2022. If the 2 A and B